Welcome to Shooting the Breeze, and we are live. And joining us is our New Zealand team, Linden and Maia Williamson. They're here to talk about what's happening in the Olympic qualifying tournaments, not only for New Zealand, but also they're going to touch on what's happening for the Opals, and who knows what else is going to come out. Linden, Maia, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
First Kiwi duo pod of 2024. Very
Dream
pumped to be
team is
here.
back. How exciting.
So excited. Oh man, so I guess where do we start, Maia? We've got a lot to talk about.
It's been a big night already. It's only day one, but
There's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. The Opals had a good win, Linden.
Yeah, so the Opals did pretty well. I mean, I guess I'm a little surprised that it probably wasn't a larger margin of victory for them, but you know what? Kudos to them, but also kudos to the Brazil team because they did not give up easily. So I think that just, if anything, this game is one of many that just shows that anything can happen and that all teams have qualified for a reason.
Yeah.
And you never know what's going to happen.
It's obviously pretty cutthroat, and the big goal is obviously the Olympics, so teams are going to put everything on the line. And yeah, I was pretty surprised when I saw Australia only won by 5, and based on what, the coaches and players' statements were afterwards, they kind of knew that they needed to step it up after that. In order to win, they've got some big games coming up. Was it Germany and Serbia?
Yeah.
So those are some pretty tough teams. So I think they have to be better. But it's always good to still get a scrappy win, just to start your tournament off right.
Yeah, absolutely. And nothing, I guess, really kind of compares to the momentum than the confidence more so that you build when you have a big game like that, hopefully with a winning result. And in the Opals case, that went across the line, top players, Ezzy, absolutely dominant.
Wow.
She plays like she's a lot older than she actually is.
She's 2 years older than me, which is ridiculous. I'm sitting on my bed talking about her, and she's dropped 18 points in Olympic qualifiers.
She acts like she's been in the WNBA for ages, as she has been, and rightfully so. And her game has just progressed. And I was actually watching some highlights not only from this game that we're talking about now, but there were plenty of them, but also going back to the WNBA and just kind of seeing her grow over time. Absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
And, she certainly helped power them. And also it's good to see Beck Allen in the mix. And, after her kind of journey, twists and turns. So happy for her, to see her contribute.
Yeah, and she shot the lights out as well, right? 4 from 6 from 3.1, I think. And so.
Yeah, they certainly stepped up.
Yeah.
Seeing with LJ, I'm not too surprised to see Lauren being rested a little bit more, just to kind of throughout, because obviously, she's got a lot coming up, and, should the Opals move forward, they'll definitely want to reserve her for Paris.
Yes, definitely.
Should it be appropriate in the WNBL, which do want to give WNBL a shout out, especially the Sydney Flames, was on the 18th. So not this coming weekend, but the next, they're actually packing the queue for the Southside Flyers. And so no doubt that, the Flyers will want LJ for that. So part of those measures to keep her on the bench. But the nice thing about the Opals is that they got a lot of depth.
Yeah. The Australians national team, they're always going to be pretty dominant, and you only have to be top 3 in the pool, is that right? So,
yeah.
They're probably pretty confident with a win, that they're going to be able to carry that momentum over. And I think the great thing about having these kind of scrappy games early is that you just have so much to learn straight away. And you can kind of see from, even with the New Zealand-China game, which we'll obviously get to soon, you can just tell it was a first game, you're still adjusting to a new environment, a new crowd, new rims, all of that. And then learning to play with a newer team as well. So I think the first games are bound to be a little bit scrappy and messy, but I feel like the only way to go from here is up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think one of the key points is the fact that quite often, particularly for Australia and New Zealand, the teams don't get a lot of time to practice together before they head off for those international competitions.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, that's the thing. China has 2 to 3 weeks preparation time, and that's their reality, and it's great. And other countries who have that capability to practice together, and likes of New Zealand, just with different factors happening, that's not really an option. Sometimes Australia, that's not an option. But the nice thing is the Australians, what they've done is, you've seen players, you got Lauren Jacksons, you got the Kayla Georges, you've got the Ezzies, but then Sammy Whitcombs, Alana Smith, the ones who've been experienced and of course Tess, but then you fold in, you're going to see like the likes of Jade Melbourne and some of the younger ones. So they have enough to kind of offset and kind of figure out how to work together, and they've played together before, as opposed to New Zealand, which, like Maya said, we'll get to. It's tough as, last minute, a lot of stuff happened, and there's going to be a lot of new people on that team that, international basketball at the senior level is not what they know.
No.
And this is their first go around. So, I think Australia does have that working in favor for them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think with the New Zealanders, like, with a really young, inexperienced team, and like with youth comes just like a lack of physicality and like able to like make decisions at a really quicker pace. So obviously, like, their first time on the international stage against someone as physical as China is just super difficult. And then, the only experience a lot of their even older players are getting, like Ezra and Sean and stuff, is like only a small burst in the WNBL. Some of them aren't even playing that much. So like, it's difficult for them to kind of go from such a small role to then like having to input a lot, against a really good team. And I think, like, they did really well, but it's just like, sometimes that's just the tough reality of it.
I think it's probably good. I think the China game was never going to be pretty.
Yes.
And so it's probably good, like you have said, Maya, the first game, different rims, your different setup, you're still feeling it out.
Yeah.
The first game is bound to be scrappy. And so probably just as well that probably the hardest game for the Tall Ferns was going to be the first one. So it worked out probably in a way, probably nicely, put that behind them, take the learnings, and then move on.
Yeah.
But I guess probably an appropriate time to segue into the night that was.
This is a hard one to talk about. 47-94 loss. I was up pretty late because obviously it's a late game New Zealand time, so it was about 1 a.m. at halftime, and we were down by about 20 or 30. So I slowly started to doze off heading into the third quarter, because it's obviously just hard watching your nation go down like that. And I actually have a couple of friends in the team, so it's a bit hard to like watch that happen to them. But like you said, they gave their best go, but just the China team is extremely talented, like second in the world. And we didn't have 4 of our 5 starters from Asia Cup. So it's just like,
what do you do, right? And it's and it's brutal, I think. And from what I spoke to McKenna Dale earlier today, through media availability. And she said, honestly, like sounds like the mindset's still pretty good. And as it should be. Here's the thing. The situation they find themselves in was to no fault of their own. It was just a really bad stroke of luck.
Yeah,
obviously feeling terribly for Charlize, Panina. I know Crystal's out with personal reasons, and there's a bunch, Talia who's rehabbing. So it just, the timing for any time for injury is never going to be the right time.
Yeah. 100%.
Now this one's definitely unfortunate.
Yes.
But I gotta say, I really give credit, and I'm trying to see it through as the lens of, okay, yeah, this is not the tournament you probably want to be dealing with this, but at the same time, talking about the debutantes and someone like, Polly. Holy crap!
Yeah.
Again, the call up, and she got 3 minutes yesterday. She's 16. This is the time, I think, is also seeing that New Zealand is, yes, we need those players who are experienced, but at the same time, it's good to have the younger ones come through and get that experience, because how else are you going to get that experience?
Yeah.
Down the line if you don't do it now.
Yeah, 100%. It's like terrifying, but I think the best way to do it is just throwing them in the deep end. Like Lauren Whitaker's 18, freshly 18, and she was on the starting 5, and she held her own. Like, she was, I know, I saw her out there. I was like, is that Lauren? But like she was perfectly fine, and she was going up against some of the best bigs in the world. Like Johanna is 6'9", and like one of the best bigs probably I've ever seen in women's basketball. And then they had Yui Ru Lee, who's also 6'7" and is in the WNBA. And Lauren's just like 18, freshly out of New Zealand, and it's like, but what?
And off for ACL is too, so
exactly.
She's kind of. She obviously had this high school season to prepare, but
what better way to learn,
and she's on like some, because like Ezra and McKenna and Ratoria, even someone like Ratoria, they've had WNBL experience because
Yeah.
they're with Bendigo, and so they've had some time to make an impact there.
Yeah.
And so those two, so they've had that level. Lauren hasn't had that yet. And
Yeah.
she played, basketball at Borders, and she's gone and abroad, and she's been highly recognized for some global camps. But nothing compares you to the lesson that you're going to learn against those WNBA players. And then I
Yeah.
can only imagine what she was feeling when she stepped out there. But how good though, and what a story she is.
Yeah, 100%. And I think I just appreciate the way she kind of took it to them. And then obviously Palace coming on, youngest tall for an ever.
Yeah.
Palace is extremely talented in her own right, but she's just still only 16 years old, and she's also quite short, which is, that's brutal truth. But like the reality of it is that if you are a smaller player at an international level, like it is like 10 times harder for you just in that fact. So the fact that she was like maintaining some of the hardest pressure from China's starting point guard at 16 years old is like ridiculous. But now she's going to a World Cup with her team in July, and she'll eventually probably be going to college and maybe playing professional. So it's like if you have a taste of that when you're younger, like you actually are way more equipped to deal with it as it comes.
If she does not go to college, I will be stunned. And
yes.
My predictions, like if she doesn't go to college, it'd probably be like a development player in WNBL or something like that.
I think it's likely still. Yeah.
She's one of those. It has to be one of those two options. But the thing is, she's just so composed. And what's been so fascinating for me about her is that at the end of the day, youngest tall forever, there are all these kind of, if you will, labels put on her, and now she's earned everything that she has. But she's still this humble kid from Hawke's Bay, the humble kid from Tauranga Girls College. Like, she's just this 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And like you said, when to have that pressure at that age from a team that's second in the world for a reason, it's the composure was phenomenal from her. And obviously a guy had said he's seen her through Toei, and she was youth player of the season for a reason. So I think again just spotlights how good that the league has done some good there, among other things. But yeah, she was definitely. I was happy to see her, get to make that debut.
I just wanted to ask you something. Given the crowd, I mean, let's face it, it was probably the single most parochial crowd you could ever be playing in front of.
Yeah.
And like you said, the Dolphins had a very young team. How do you think playing in front of an audience like that is going to help build character for those younger players?
That's a good question.
I think once you've kind of like it's probably terrifying. I mean, I've never experienced it myself, so no clue what it actually feels like. But kind of once you experience like the utmost like craziest crowd, you can kind of probably deal with anything else. Like I know that like from personal experience with Palace and Lauren Whitaker, I know that they're pretty like adaptable. Like I know that they kind of just go out there and get after it. So I imagine once they checked in, they'll probably just playing basketball. But like they're now probably equipped to play a lot of basketball and not be fazed by the crowds, because like once you've seen the worst of it, nothing else is kind of a surprise.
I'd say the resilience factor is probably a key part in that. And if anything, New Zealand is resilient, and that's a lot of the character traits of what those players are, and who come into the program. They are resilient, like Maia said, adaptable, and because the way that they're switched on is like once they check in, it's they're locked in and they're going to do whatever they can. And Lauren also said she was really composed, and she was going up against some of the, like you said, WNBA players. And I just look at her like, wow, I don't know how you can.
I know.
Do that. That's again, like she played 27 minutes against Kahu last season and held her own there. So, a good warm up to that.
Yeah.
But all the results.
I think adaptability is probably the best word for this team. Like they obviously like really struggled, like 2 from 21 from the 3-point line, shot 30%, turned the ball over 20 times, like, and the height disadvantage meant that China just had so many second chance opportunities. But like you learn so much from that. And I think probably the hardest thing for Guy Malloy would have been like Charlize runs the offense, you know, and she's just so like she can handle pressure. She's just a floor general, and then Panina just gives you that inside presence, and she's got so much experience. And then Crystal was the same thing. She's such a good facilitator, and then Talia can just shoot the lights out. So that's like 4 key parts of your offense that you probably structure a lot of the things around. And then all of a sudden he loses one, and then he loses another, and then like, you know, the last minute drop out of Charlize means he's had to like read. Just had to be like so adaptable, which is, you know, like a young squad. Obviously, the results weren't quite there, but like the learnings are incredible from that.
What I'm interested to see down the road is if they put McKenna Dale in, because she didn't play last night, but
she wasn't
her
even
style,
suited up.
No, she didn't, and she is a fast player, and she likes to shoot the lights out. So that's her style of play, as people who have watched her have seen. So I am anxious to see what that might look like. I'm gonna assume that they brought her here for a reason. They're gonna bring her in down the road. It sounds like that guy has a master plan that, understandably, they're not giving up yet. So I'm gonna hope to assume that probably tomorrow or Sunday we'll see McKenna and kind of see where she fits in. But it sounds like she said that there's her role. I mean, she said from what she told me was she handles the ball a lot at Bendigo, because that's kind of the role that they put her in. And now that Crystal and some of the other ball handlers for the 12 Ferns aren't available, you know, her skills are going to be put to use. So that's going to be, I think, an added strength.
Yeah, 100%. And I think because she's 6 foot, she kind of brings a little bit of an edge over other point guards, because she's a bit of an oversized point guard, whereas like, you know, Palace and Taylor are on the other side of the spectrum. So and honestly, like, we could do with some 3-point shooting, so it'd be nice to see the injection of her to get a couple. And I think like this will definitely not be her last 12 Ferns appearance. I think she's just gone skyrocket.
It's just been amazing to see. I mean, she's not new to international basketball. I think that's what people maybe don't realize, is that she was a junior 12 in 2018. So she's traveled with New Zealand before now. Given that she grew up majority in the United States, it's, of course, you know, it's going to be harder. She's not going to probably represent them at age group level as much, if at all, because she's over there. But yeah, now she belongs in there. And she just performs and she hustles, and as Jeff Level likes to call it, lag-free basketball. She just she just goes for it. And the thing is, she'll make a shot, but then she'll be at the other end of the floor by the time somebody gets the rebound. So, I would imagine that some 3-point shooting will be welcome in the coming days.
And I think just like you said, her upward trajectory is just starting. Like, she had just a breakout season with the Fire. I mean, her first game hit 8 triples against the Whākai. And then, like,
everyone's going to be remembering that, whether being planned to or not, probably.
Indeed, yeah. And then just, like, you know, the way that she's just gone upwards, like, had such a great season with the Fire, like, 3x3 Cup. I remember we were choosing the MVP because I was commentating at that tournament, and, like, you know, the only reason she couldn't get MVP was just because of her, like, where her team's placing was. You know, like, she didn't place as high as, you know, but, like, we were like, I would find tooth and nail to get her to be MVP just because that's how dominant she was. You know, like, she's just so hard to stop. And then all of a sudden she gets a DP spot at Bendigo, and it's like she just made so much growth in a year. Like, imagine what she can do in the next 2 to 3.
Yeah, she was, you know, I'm sure she's going to be great. And, you know, it seems like, because now she's also got Paulus, but then also Amy West, who is back in the team. She's been out for a couple of years, but she has played for New Zealand before. So that, you know, so she was teammates with them. So there's a little bit of familiarity there amongst the probably a little bit of a different fray than people might have expected.
Yeah, 100%. And it's nice to see Zoe Richards back in the mix again.
Yeah, no, it was great to see her. Really proud of her and what she's done. And she's definitely, I mean, her season with the Hoiho this year, definitely, you know, she definitely improved a lot.
Yeah, she took a huge leap from the 2022 season to the 23 season. She was a really key part of that Hoiho season, kind of all season long. Like, her scoring took an absolute stride. Like, she was so hard to stop
Yeah, she was.
last season.
Yeah, she was really tough to guard, and if she has the ball, I wouldn't want to. I'd try and mark her as best I could.
Let's get out of the way.
Get her out of the way. As I think her season in Europe, I think that definitely helped her taking that import role in Luxembourg and then coming back, and it's just paying dividends for her now.
100%.
So, and
go ahead, Linden.
You go.
The other person I was surprised that it is her 5x5 debut was Shan Rabadi.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, I for some reason I just had assumed that she'd been in the squad before that.
I thought she went on tour, so it was 2022, when they did that tour in October to play the WNBL teams. I thought Shan was part of that. Now I could have been wrong. I know she was she's been part of 3x3, we know that. So, but I think whatever, this is definitely, I'm surprised it's her first time.
Yeah, I'm
getting up on my tour like this.
Yeah, I would have thought we would have seen her earlier in the squad, but nonetheless, it's super cool now. She's kind of, I guess 3x3 is still probably considered the lower tier out of 3x3 and 5-on-5.
Right now, yeah.
She's made that 3x3 team and now made the jump to 5x5. I think it's cool that she's kind of made that transition and been able to play both.
And see, it was Lauren Hippolyte too.
Yeah.
Because we're seeing Lauren a lot on the 3-on-3 circuit.
Yeah.
And so, her and Sharn, they certainly, and they play 5-on-5 with Polkai. But see, 3x3 is a very different style than 5-on-5. So I think it says a lot about them if they're able to be adaptable, to use the word that you put before, and then just kind of be able to yo-yo. And Ezra's on 3-on-3 as well. So yeah, there's a multitude of experience.
Ezra McGoldrick, by the way, last night.
She's so good, man.
Yeah, it was her night last night, top performer.
She's definitely also been one of the ones that has been on an upward trajectory, and I can't, the ceiling for her is pretty high. She's going to be playing for a long time.
Yeah, I agree. And she's just genetically blessed as well, just super long and athletic. Really good athlete. So, she has that natural advantage, and now she's really growing into her game as a shooter, and then, developing guard skills. So, I think last year for the Poco, we had her one game guarding Kreslin Carr, who, by the way, is quite short. So, it just shows Ezra's versatility, and she's really stepping into that role. And obviously her first year with the Phi and the To'ihi didn't probably perform as well as she probably would have liked, but just had a really good season with the Paikai and was one of our best players.
Yeah, she did really well.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, given what, the Tauihi over the last couple of seasons and the development just from the regular play that New Zealand athletes are getting, do you think that's making more of a difference in terms of international competition? Look, they played number 2 in the world, right? Let's be honest. And they're tall. There's a lot of tall timber in that team. So, a lot of people look at the headline score and go, yeah, that's a terrible performance. But I think if you balance it out over the fact that New Zealand didn't have a full squad, there were a lot of young players, there were height mismatches. If you take it from that perspective and you look at the development that's occurred with Tauihi, what do you guys think is the potential for the squad that's in China at the moment over the next 3 to 4 years?
Great question. Well, I think that the To'ihi league standard has, again, in 2023, just took a major leap. So, the standard across all the 5 teams was really high, and there was, the imports were pretty high level imports. I think we had a couple first round WNBA draft picks, and then a couple of, pretty Tess Magden is a really good example. She's an absolute Aussie staple legend. So the standard of the league was really good, which means all of these girls that are playing in the To'ihi league are improving at that rate. And I think it was like a whole, because the league is so good, everyone improved in that way. And that's probably the reason why McKenna Dell has made this team. And like Lauren and Pally can go out there and handle the pressure because they've had this experience playing in a really good league already back home. Same with Ezra and Sean. Like Ezra like really developed herself this season, and that's probably why she's earned herself a spot on the starting five, but B actually performed at that level. Like I think they're just now they've gotten a really good experience home in actually a really high standard league that has also helped them get other opportunities like Ezra, Sean, McKenna, Victoria going overseas. So now they're really preparing themselves for the world stage as opposed to before Tauihi, like the New Zealand Women's League was pretty average, and so they really didn't have anything to play against throughout the year that would prepare them for anything else international.
Yeah, they really it just opened the gateway. I think.
Yeah.
What I was saying, like, you get it's nice because you do have the top tier imports, and Tess certainly coming in was phenomenal. When Ash Taya was able to come in, I was like, she made an impact. Like they're just raising the bar, and it's not only obviously WNBA drafted players and the ones who are playing there. It means a lot, and there's a lot of experience to be gained from that. But just as well to have the others. But you get better if you surround yourself with people who are better than you. So, it gives them a platform to do that and a space to actually, they want to put in the work. Like Ezra, and you think we've seen Tera take a leap.
Yeah,
Ezra, that's that's what the league does, and it just gives them a further foundation to do that. And it's, I think also in turn it's good for the Aussies and for those coming in because they learn off of some of those. So, and like you said, Maya, we see others getting probably more WNBL spots, even if they are development players.
Yeah.
And they're actually getting. It seems like Kennedy was intentional with who he brought, because it seems like because Ezra is certainly making an impact. Looks like McKenna Dale has taken full advantage of her opportunities, and Victoria is getting in there too. So there's like they're not just sitting.
Yeah,
there's stuff happening there, and so they're getting that experience, and they got some pretty high quality players on that Spirit team. So it's it just all pays off dividends.
You actually mentioned the name Tadari. We haven't really even talked about her today.
But she played 33 minutes yesterday.
Yeah, and she was the second top scorer, and she has like talking about Tauihi like raising the standard. Like from year one, she was already impressive in year one, but year two just incredibly hard to guard, hard to stop, and now she's not only with the Boomers but playing really well with the Boomers, and I think that's again like another example of like she just really found herself in the Tauihi League, which meant that she found another opportunity to play in the WNBL, which again prepares you so much more to go play at an international level, and I just think like, I don't know why we haven't spoken about her yet, but she's been really impressive.
I mean, rightfully so. I mean, Ezra, she was a powerhouse last night, and so she deserves a lot of airtime. I mean, Tara, here's the thing, she's going to be a workhorse no matter what.
Yeah.
And she's been around, the nice thing with her is that she's been around the New Zealand programs enough, so she's becoming one of those staple players, I reckon.
Yeah.
And so it's nice that, despite kind of, the shakeup, I'll call it, trying to keep positive for what's happened here, to have someone like Tara in the position where she understands, okay, suppose, her, Taylor, some others, they're coming back from the Asia Cup, so they understand that.
Yeah.
So they see, and also like Victoria, I mean, she played against China the last time.
Yeah.
So, they've seen them before, and but Tara just kind of helps hold it down, and I think she's kind of one of those blue players, and so I can't, she's gonna have another one with a long career.
Yeah, I agree.
And she seems to be playing. She's just happy, and she's playing her style of basketball, and she just looks like she's having fun with it. So I'm really happy for her.
And I think that's a huge thing. Like it still obviously is the top national women's team for New Zealand, but they all just seem to still be having fun. Like if you follow their social media and everything, like their media day looks fun. Like it's just like, and I saw Ross, she posted a picture, like posted a post on Instagram, and just like, she's just like, this environment is awesome. It's just like, that really is true. Like it is a professional environment and the best in the world of its kind, but same, like you still need to have fun and really love it. And, I think especially for us at home, having that engagement as well, like it's still at the end of the day, we watch and love basketball because we enjoy it,
It's pivotal, I think. And I mean, it's one of those things where New Zealand does that well. And I mean, one, I'm so glad you brought up Rashi. If those
Queen.
who don't know Rashi, you got to get on and see her on Instagram right away, because she is one of the most phenomenal people and photographers. She's both. She's the rare who's got both. And yeah, I just want to send a big shout out to her. And I love that Basketball New Zealand was able to get her over there to actually follow the Ferns around and capture this special moment, because, like you said, Maya, I mean, like, for those at home and in New Zealand, like, you know, we want to see that. And also, how can people expect to understand what's going on, or maybe even appreciate it more, if you don't see that in, like, the jersey presentation? I mean, little moments like that, just watching them, I mean, their personalities come through.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just looks like they're having fun. And in a team like New Zealand, you know, the stakes are obviously high, and they want to achieve for the country, and they want to bring, you know, there's a lot of pride for them. So they're going to work hard no matter what. But they're, you know, they just have a lot of fun. Yeah. And they love playing with each other, and most of them have played with each other before or on Togehi teams together. So it's just a good mix. And so it's just, I don't know, it's just for the love of the game. But they're also they have a job to do, and they know that.
And I
but
think
they're not going to give up.
Being able to see all that content, like, especially Roshi's, she's just extremely talented with it. Like,
she's the best, yeah.
Roshi's portfolio on Instagram, go check it out.
Check her out, man. She's
there.
And if you ever see her around at games, if you ever come to New Zealand, which everybody should, if you see her at games, she is the friendliest human.
She is the best.
Like, I put her, like, Maya and Rashi are, like, my two favorite humans in New Zealand.
Get out.
Yeah, no, seriously though. Like, if you want welcoming people, those are your two. But Rashi, she does create a ton of content, and you know, she just does what the game desperately needs.
Yes, and I think in this day and age as well, like, obviously social media's got such a chokehold on our society, and, like, that's the way that we engage with, like, you know, the people that we look up to, and how we follow things. And I think a really big part of, like, seeing the Tall Ferns is not just seeing box score and results, but it's seeing, like, the behind the scenes stuff, like you said. And, like, I think, you know, for young girls that are watching on, like, you know, having aspirations to make a Tall Ferns team, to see that these guys are just like them in the way that they're funny and silly, and they like to dance, and, like, it's like that environment is actually something that you really want to aspire to be in, rather than just, like, seeing them perform on the world stage. Like, I think that's really, really important in now, like, the digital age.
100%. And side change, but one of probably the coolest things was actually Rashi she had an impromptu decision to actually come over and join for the Asia Cup.
Yeah.
And she came over and...
Did you sleep on your floor or something?
No, she did not. No, it all worked out, but I convinced her to come over, and but she did. I'm so glad she did. And she worked, and she provided, man. Like, that content was A+++++. And I mean, I know, guys, I know we're hyping her up, but she's worth it. And she just, and it was good because more than that, like, the fact that New Zealand got that content, because she was able to go over there. And I was just so thankful that she did. And to have another advocate like she is phenomenal. And, you know, also, it's obviously we want people to see, you know, I think one of the great things about New Zealand and the Australians too is that they're relatable, but these people, like, can't see it if you don't show it. Yeah. But also, it's so cool too is that in New Zealand, to see someone like Rashi go out and take these photos, and then she can also show that, hey, like, you can also be involved in different ways. Yeah. And, you know, you can be photographing stuff, you can be doing, but, you know, she's maybe really talented, but you can be part of the sport too. And so she's also a really good example of that. And so she's everywhere. But when she's able to do New Zealand stuff, it is, you know, it's just bringing a ton of value for the country and for the federation. So I'm really, really happy for her, and shout out to her.
Yeah, I was gonna say, from your perspective, how do you think having all that material for the fans helps to keep people engaged? Because normally, let's be honest, international competition by its very nature means you don't get a lot of kind of ad hoc content coming out. It's kind of handled, and it's processed, right? But being able to have some of that more raw content, and particularly for New Zealand, because, you know, let's be honest, basketball internationally for New Zealand hasn't been great in the past. So being able to have that sort of stuff available for everybody to look at, you think that helps people connect with the national team more?
It's so funny that it's interesting that you say that because I look back on it now, like 5 years later, and I kind of am stunned at the trajectory it's taken. But actually, the first team I ever saw with any of these women was a 12 Ferns, which I think is really unusual. Because to your point, Paul, like the international content isn't really there, and so, but I somehow found these players relatable, and I was half a world away, and so I think is from my perspective, from somebody who's lived through that, it's so important because it's just one more way to show everybody that they're human too.
Yeah.
And they haven't had this insane talent for sport, and but they're also doing different things outside of that. And because the way New Zealand the system is set up, it's important to spotlight. And so just having that content, even just having time availability for media to come in and talk to them, just because the international it just should be covered more. I think naturally in places like the USA, China, Europe is going to be probably covered more so than other places, but the social media part, especially because that's where so many people are connecting. If you want fans, you got to bring them in, and you have to show them, and it's the people that the fans are gonna connect with. Not, maybe they'll connect with the sports side of it, which is great too, but because these women are so much more than just basketball players, but they are obviously basketball players as well. So definitely important. It's been great to have that content available to us, so we can engage with it and share it, and just spread the word.
Yeah, I think you just, as Kiwis, you probably, when you're seeing the content of them just being like their authentic self, you see a reflection of yourself as well, which means you feel very much connected to them, and to feel connected to like the national team of a sport that you love is like a really cool feeling. And it's more than just like, if you open the Basketball New Zealand Instagram and you see, a total and like the summary of the box score and the caption, you don't feel like very connected or anything, but if you feel like you're connected to these people and see the authentic version of themselves on a platform that like the whole country can see, then you know that they are just being real and vulnerable, and that like makes you want to engage with them. And I think the media's done a really good job, especially like the Instagram and stuff, just like really promoting the tall ferns, and like the engagement with that has been really good, which means like there are heaps of people staying up at 12 a.m. just to watch them get their butts spanked by China, which is like, that's really a cool experience nationally, that people want to engage with them, even at a really tough time like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, looking at it from 30,000 feet, if you're watching, hopefully people will watch it because they care about the players. Obviously, basketball is a driving factor, but at the end of the day, you want the people to stick with you and still believe, even if, things don't go as planned. Yes. And the thing with social media is now it seems like Basketball New Zealand and others are starting to invest more into it, because the thing is it just doesn't happen out of thin air. So you have to want to put production behind that, and sometimes that means putting funding behind it, but it's an investment worth doing, and it's going to pay off dividends because about the people you're going to reach and who you're going to inspire. Because at the end of the day, the high performance program, they obviously want to, they want to get girls and women moving through there and, performing to the best of their potential. But at the same time, if you can inspire some others, even if they don't take it high performance down the road, like just get them into basketball. That's also a good result. So it's just kind of the tools that they have to put it behind, but it seems that they are doing a much better job. So like you said, Maya, they're really utilizing that channel, which has been great.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Linden.
I'm just paraphrasing what you said.
I'm kind of curious about the way that you think that this team is going to be able to bounce back from the game and reset themselves. I mean, it's hard to go through that, but I think it's also important for everybody on that team to realise that they're young, they're inexperienced, and like we've said, they're up against number 2 in the world, and yet there was some real great standout performances there. I'm just curious, how do you think that they should look at that performance and push themselves forward for the next game.
I think it kind of goes back to the resilience factor and the adaptability, and just and that's also what the integrity and the character of the team, like you said earlier, because that's sport, it's life. Things are gonna happen, and it's gonna blow up, but you just have to put that behind you. Obviously, guys, they're gonna be in the locker room talking about the things that did not go well, and Puerto Rico is also a different team. So, and they also got thumped pretty hard by France. So
Yes,
I
they
think
did.
it's going to be, both. It's going to be a contentious game, but I think it's going to be the mindset for them. And they, something that was really powerful that I heard McKenna say was, we think about, obviously we're missing some key players, but we understand that as a team that Talia, Panina, Charlize, Crystal, the likes of those, and many others, that they have paved this way for us. It was our responsibility to go out there and give it everything we've got.
Yeah.
And I think and she said that's a motivating factor for them right now, is that we want to honor them and what their contributions, and we want to just carry that forward. So, I think there's gonna be a never say die mentality, and they're gonna be ready. It doesn't sound like they're dwelling too much. I think that you have to a little bit just to make sure you correct the errors. But outside of that, because there was probably more than they would have liked, but they're gonna be ready. I have no doubt that their mindset tomorrow is gonna be refreshed and ready to go and locked in, just as it would have been at the start of yesterday.
I agree, and I think the reality is that probably they knew they were never going to win that China game, so I don't think that there was probably a whole feeling of disappointment, because a full strength number 2 ranked team in the world versus a very much under strength and low ranked team, I don't think they had I think their realistic expectations was, okay, this game is likely not going to be a win. So you're not feeling like you're not feeling like the chair has been pulled out from underneath of you, and I feel like that's probably a big factor is why they can just really bounce back, because they're in those kind of games, you just I've had this perspective as a coach where you're okay, the likelihood of winning this game is quite low, but what kind of things can be our points of emphasis so that we know that we've had these small wins. And I think watching them, they played some really nice offense. They just really struggled against the height. Obviously, you've got someone 6'10" standing in the key. What can you do? But I think they created quite a lot of good looks that you can probably be happy with. And then obviously we got Pallison and Amy got some minutes in, and you could tell that there are just still small wins even just within that. And obviously there are a lot of things to work on. They need to be able to stop turning the ball over to give China 40 points in trans, and the offensive rebounds is also a bit of a struggle because the height difference. But I think as they settle into the tournament and kind of adapt to the environment, and also start to play a little bit easier teams, I think they can probably just be encouraged with the small wins they got against China, and now they can continue to build again. I don't feel like they're going to be really feeling it too hard.
No, I really liked what you said, Maya. I think it's one of those things where, the turnovers, we're not going to turnovers, but those were terrible. And, you just, no team can get away with that, and it's about to win, to put it bluntly. So that's, and like you said, the height disadvantage was definitely prominent, especially when trying to drive the boards. But, like you said, though, but especially for a team like New Zealand, you have to think about what success looks like. And yes, they're not. They went in probably not. Yeah, it's likely not going to go well, and we understand that. But we're still gonna. Again, we're not going to become lazy, and we're not going to do this, that, or whatever. We're going to still do everything we can. But there are a lot of small wins in that. And like Mike said, there were some really good looks, and there are people getting minutes and getting that time in. So I think overall, I mean, while the stat line was not pretty. But there was, there are some good things, and I'm not discouraged whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think my take home message, hopefully for a lot of people, is that don't count them out yet, and don't, it's just one game. I mean, it's a pivotal game, but it's one game, and there's time to bounce back. So, I mean, that being said, the Puerto Rico game tomorrow is crucial.
Yes.
And France is probably going to be tough as well. But, it's not all doom and gloom.
Yes, I agree. And I think
that's how you look at it.
they have about a day and a bit to recover. Midnight. I got a bit confused with the whole midnight thing, and I always get confused which day that actually means. But I believe it's midnight, the start of Sunday, New Zealand time.
Yeah, this is what happens when you live in this part of the world.
Oh, it's just like
the timing gets a little.
is it today? Tomorrow? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, as we're getting into the back end of our live pod, I wanted to ask you guys. Let's sit down and play everyone's favourite game,
Oh,
right? Which is let's think about what's going through the coach's head.
Ooh.
Right, it's everyone's favourite game. Look, I mean, obviously, Guy would have been disappointed, right? Because coaches don't coach to lose,
by 50 as well.
right? But based off what you guys saw of the game, what do you think Guy will be thinking about for Puerto Rico?
Well, Puerto Rico is yes. They are still quite a good team. Like they are ranked 12th by FIBA. They got to the quarter-final stage of the 2022 World Cup, which is actually a really impressive feat. Like, we weren't there at all. So the fact that they got to the quarter-final stage is really impressive. And I know they have a Gerantes, I think, is their was their leading scorer, leading rebounder, leading person in assists, and leading in efficiency per game. So they've got someone that's really talented. And they've got another girl that's about 6'4", who is second leading in points, assists, and rebounds. So it's a tough challenge for them. But I think, again, their offense, I thought, against China was actually quite nice, and they've kind of adapted to a style of play that really fits them. So if you run your style of play and you're making the right reads and right decisions and you have your scorers getting into the key, I don't think there's much more that you can do. I think it'll come down to being able to secure the ball. Like they had 20 turnovers. I remember at halftime, I think China had scored 20 points off of turnovers. And that was only halftime, so I imagine that doubled by the end of the game. And they're just being able to disallow second chance opportunities. I mean, at the end of the day, basketball's about who can score most points. So if you give the other team the least amount of opportunities, disallow turnovers and second chance opportunities, I think they could have a pretty good shot. But you just never know. It's just that's the beauty of these kind of tournaments, is you just never know.
I mean, Puerto Rico has, I believe, according to their website, the tallest one is 6'4".
Yeah.
So the height is probably a little bit more manageable, and I think their shortest is 5'1". So it's definitely a different landscape than what last night was. But yeah, no, it's like you said, Maya. It's all about who can score the most points, and just limiting the turnovers. And if you can convert the mistakes into opportunities to score, be on it at all times.
And I think for both teams, this is obviously a must-win game, because whoever wins this game will be able to advance to the next stage. Because, I mean, this is assuming that Puerto Rico will lose to China.
Right.
Which you can probably confidently say that China's probably going to finish top of that pool.
Probably.
What makes you say that?
I don't know, maybe just
I can't figure why.
6'10", and she didn't miss a shot last night. So
my kind of I'm gonna go bold. China, France, and I'm just gonna go with it. New Zealand.
Love it. Love
New
the
Zealand's
pride.
gonna go through. I believe it's gonna happen.
Okay, yeah. You obviously got to say I'm never going to back Puerto Rico over New Zealand 100%.
No.
I believe we can really do it, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of teams will be sleeping on us too, because they're like,
Well, if you looked at
walk in the park.
FIBA did a couple of articles before this tournament, and they said the underdog, and they put New Zealand. So, and I totally agree. It's I think Charlotte is also part of that equation, but just because that factor's not necessarily there right now, it doesn't mean that there's any less chance that they can do well. So hopefully the teams have scouted them well enough that they understand, you know what, New Zealand's good, and there is a lot to be said for them, and they're not just a bunch of scrubs. There is a lot of talent there, and there's a lot of capability. that teams actually have to watch out, because if they don't, New Zealand's going to capitalize on that, and if they execute all those points well, New Zealand's going to be fine.
Yeah, and like you said, in terms of scouting, because the New Zealand team has so many new players in it, it makes it harder to scout. Cause
they have to pull like the highlights if they play Tohi. Like they're going to have to roll out, but which honestly, like sometimes the footage isn't probably as plentiful.
Yeah.
Or is probably as much or as good as probably what they're used to seeing. Now that's probably that should just be the case. So for those who they haven't played, it's going to be, it's going to be definitely a different challenge as opposed to someone like it was Kalani, Panina, or Talia where they played before.
Yeah.
Then they can pull that easily, but some of these they haven't. So they might just come out of the box and surprise them.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of those adjustments for those players that they really don't know a lot about are going to have to happen courtside rather than having options thought out from the film.
Yeah, and I think like they can do the film from the China it doesn't probably give a good representation either. So they'll have clipped that and using that as a scout, I imagine, but it's not going to really give a good picture. So that again, that is definitely an advantage. And I honestly think that Lauren Whitaker could do some damage. Like I think,
she definitely could.
She's close to 6'4", I think. So she's not going to be relatively outsized. And then you could be cheeky and chuck Ratoria on at the same time as her, and then you've got a double timber situation, and then that puts Puerto Rico in a bit of an uncomfortable position. So I think Guy's going to just have to pull out all the stops this game, but I definitely think it's doable.
I feel like there's more options at this game than there was yesterday.
Yeah, I think there's more room to kind of pull tactical moves that can really get you ahead rather than against China. Like he put Pally on in the first quarter, and that's no disrespect to Pally, but that's kind of a sign like he's just trying to get everybody in and playing that they were, he wasn't obviously trying to win that game, but I think Puerto Rico is a game where he can really pull some tactical moves. And he's Guy Malloy. He's just extremely smart and experienced. So
he's a great basketball mind.
Yeah.
He can certainly pull some, and he'll also, worthy of saying that, Jody Cameron, Leanne Walker, and Mel Downer, who are also great basketball minds, are on the bench with him as his assistants.
Exactly.
So that collective, that knowledge group of basketball IQ within that team is pretty good. So I'll imagine that there's going to be some extensive stuff going on tomorrow.
I'm excited.
I'm nervous, but also very excited.
Okay, guys, as always, it's great having you on the show. It's great hearing about New Zealand, about the Olympic qualifiers. And, it's really just a few more months and you're starting to get into the run-up into the Tauihi League.
Yeah.
So it's been fantastic having you on. And obviously we're looking forward to connecting up with you guys again when we're talking more about New Zealand hoops.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Great.
Always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.